right, what is going on, gang? In this episode, we have an OG guest, Anthony Zorzetto. Welcome to the podcast, man. I've been watching your content for, I'm pretty sure it's been like 6 months, 8 months. And I like that your content is very raw. I don't really see a lot of that online. Sometimes there's social media accounts that portray some kind of like bullshit life. And yours kind of resonated with me, man, because it's very much like straightforward and to the point of
Yep.
not making excuses in your own life. And I know that you're very much into jujitsu. So we'll talk about that in a little bit because I've been in my journey for a year, but I don't go as hard as you do on that. And most important, like your story is freaking nuts. It's something out of a movie. So selfishly, I would, if you could go through your origin story on the podcast and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, sure, man. No problem. So grew up in a small town just south of Edmonton where I live in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada up here. And it was just like a small town, just like you'd see in the movie. In the movies, everyone was super friendly and outgoing, and drugs were not the worst thing was weed. Like, you'd have the potheads here and there, skateboarding and smoking weed. It was mostly a hockey town. So that's what I grew up playing. Uh, Parents got divorced when I was in grade 5. So they left. My mom left the small town of Beaumont. Went to the big city, which is funny talking to someone that lived in New York. There's like maybe a million people. There's 1.4 here, I
Right.
think. So that's adorable to someone from New York. Uh, yeah, my parents split up, and then I just continued playing hockey. And I was always like good kid, polite, never really got in trouble when it came to disrespect or anything like that. It was always just laugh, and he jumped off the roof onto the trampoline or tried to swim across the lake by himself. Just like stuff like that, normal stuff. And then when I got into junior high, late junior high, actually started high school. High school is when I more so started to see the kind of like gangster vibes, and people that I knew that were my age are starting to like sell drugs, and whether it's weed or this first time I ever saw crack was actually when I was in high school. This guy had like an Altoid mint container, and he opened it, and there was like a rock in there, and it blew my mind. I'm like, this is just like from the movies. I had no idea.
Right.
I thought it was just like
That's
fake.
nice.
You can't get drugs. Fucking real drugs, man. That's crazy. And at that time, I was friends with people we swore off drugs. Like, we're not going to do that. That's stupid. And I started to realize, in hindsight now, I realized that
Right.
I really looked up and respected the guys that were kind of gangsters and feared rather than loved. Like, I wanted that reputation, admittedly. And I started to do the things I needed to do to get those. Like, I started getting in fights, and I fought quite a bit in hockey. If I boxed for quite some time, so I
Right.
was decently good at it. So I would go to these parties and just start shit for no reason, so that people would,
Right. Right.
you know, be like, "Oh, Anthony's crazy," or "He gets in these fights," or "He's tough," or all that BS. And yeah, it got to a point where I finally got in a couple one too many fights at school. I got expelled. Went back to Beaumont to live with my dad because the current situation, living with my mom,
Mhm.
she remarried to this guy who's just an absolute fucking
Right.
menace, asshole. It wasn't good. So went back to my dad. My dad straightened me out for a little while and didn't partake in any of that kind of stuff, fighting, getting in trouble, focus on school. Went and started my apprenticeship as a carpenter. And when I got my apprenticeship papers for my first year, I decided to move out when I was 18 years old. Moved in with two buddies of mine, Dane and Tanner, and they were very like business orientated, really goal driven. All the books that they had there were Automatic Millionaire, Rich Dad Poor Dad, The Wealthy Barber, all that kind of stuff. And I was hooked. I was into that. I wanted their approval. Like, it switched from these
Right.
gangsters and everything to I wanted their approval and be like a smart businessman and stuff. So it they helped me quite a bit because I saved up at 19 years old. I had the down payment for a condo, and I bought a condo when I was 19 years old. At least I put the down payment down for the condo when I was 19 years old. And right around there is when I started to notice too that my relationship with alcohol was put under a microscope.
Mhm.
So I realized that I was always the drunkest guy. Every time we went out, it was just like,
R-
at least the culture here and pretty
Right.
much everywhere in North America, like, you get fucked up on the weekends. Like, you work hard, play hard, but you do. In Alberta, that's even more so true. And so I knew that I had this problem, but I liked money more at the time. So I decided to become a bartender and doorman at the nightclubs because I still wanted,
Mhm.
I'm very extroverted. I need people around me. I want to hang out with people, all that kind of stuff. I wanted to get that. I wanted to get my kick from that too. So I started working at the bar so I could make the money. I wasn't going to go against the rules and drink. So I wasn't drinking. I was making money and I was able to buy my condo along with working. But then when I moved out of Tanner and Dane's house and I went into the condo by myself, I started to hang out with people that were not as good for me. And they're highlighted, I guess, yeah, the root cause of all their meetings was alcohol. And that's what we did. We just would get out and get wasted every weekend. And we would be looking at like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Let's get through it. Holy shit, it's Friday. Let's get fucked up. And we'd go have a good time and be the life of the party and all that kind of stuff. And again, I was like, I'm going to drink my face off, but I'm never going to do Coke. I'm never going to do that. That's like this thing that's so far away. It's some Scarface shit. Only losers do it. I'm not going to do it. So I ended up at this house party one time and but it's actually, I should
Mhm.
back up a little bit. Drugs are introduced to most people slowly. And you have to you realize that these things they get introduced slowly
Mhm.
so that you have a better relationship with it. It's not as weird. It's not as taboo. It's, oh, this person does Coke. He seems normal, right? There it is. It's on the kitchen counter and like people are doing it. I'm not going to do it, but like, it seems like everything's fine. Like it's not, people's faces aren't melting off. It's not
Yeah.
like what Dare said to us. It's not, you know,
You talked about how you have a very, I guess, like addictive personality, but it could be good and bad. So you talked about when you first started playing hockey, that was like you go 1000% all in on that thing. And I could see that it's the same right now with jujitsu that you get after it every single day. So do you feel like some people have that kind of addictive personality that could be either used for good or go down that dark path? Is that kind of like your take on that?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There's people have a
Yeah.
natural genetic predisposition for addiction. And some people catch it early and realize it and they're very mature. A lot of people just hang out with the wrong
Right.
people. Not that it's their fault, but it does normalize things. And yeah, you can really get, take away with it. Like you can really go off the rails with it, good or bad. And there's plenty of people that are addicted to
Mhm.
CrossFit, or I don't like using the word addicted in those types of things, but more obsessed. They're obsessed with CrossFit. They're obsessed with jujitsu. But the difference between that and an addiction is like,
Right.
you're not going to leave your family
Right.
for jujitsu or CrossFit, lifting weights. You're not going to call in work
100%.
to sit work every single day.
I
Yeah.
love 50 Cent. Get Rich or Die Trying's like one of my favorite albums of all time. But also you mentioned how it fucked with your mind a little bit because
Yeah.
the kind of like the music, like if you listen to Many Men, it's about like just being like a freaking straight up hardcore gangster. Do you feel like that music influenced how you want to live your life and be like, I want to
Yeah.
be like 50 Cent or like G Unit kind of thing? And that kind of swayed you in a way to be like, this is what's fucking cool.
Without question. Yeah, without question, man. I remember talking
Mhm.
to there's a news place here called CTV Broadcasting, and they came to our school and they were asking questions like, "Why do you think young youth men's violence is
2002,
on the
yeah,
rise?"
3.
And this was like the G Unit time, 2000, like 2 to 2, yeah, somewhere in there. And I admittedly said on camera, like, all these songs and rappers are getting so much, the rappers are getting all this praise and admiration. Everyone wants to be like them. And the lyrics are like gangster shit. And I get it, man. If you're like in the hood or
Mhm.
in some bad neighborhood and you want to get out, they're rapping about that. They're rapping
Right.
about getting out and starting from the streets, getting up to the top, being a big drug dealer, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But these are suburban white kids or whatever. They're listening to all their biggest problem is they don't have 3 pairs of shoes to pick from. So they're just taking that music and that energy and putting it into like fights and just trying to be like fake
Right.
gangsters.
Like 50 Cent or something like that in the gym, like, it still gets me hyped to this day, but I'm just curious to see if it's something, like, that certain people have this trait that's, like,
Yeah.
fucking go all in on it. Because like, my parents always never wanted me to play Grand Theft Auto or listen to rap when I was little, but I still and luckily, like, God willing, like, I didn't really get into that lifestyle. So, it's always something that I'm interested in, like, how that affects certain people and whatnot.
A little bit of that too is some identity crisis issues as well. Like, especially young, impressionable men, they don't know, am I an athlete? Am I going to make it? Do I want to be feared? Do I want to be loved? Who do I want to be like? Who do I want to
Mm,
emulate? Because especially for men, we emulate other men. Hopefully it's our fathers, but sometimes we don't have that opportunity, or our fathers are not good for us, or our father is absent or whatever. So we insert this other father figure. And for some people, it's gangster rap or gangster movies or whatever. And kids are not
right.
quite smart enough yet to understand, like, this guy is playing a character. You want to be Robert De Niro in Casino or Joe Pesci in Casino, and they're not like that in real life, but we want them to be. So we emulate that.
What
Is
point in your life did you were going down this path that wasn't leading to anything good in the sense of, like, the drugs and the alcohol in a sense? Was there, like, a specific moment?
For me, there was a specific moment, but I knew inherently that I shouldn't be doing it. You shouldn't be doing drugs, but you're just surrounded by so many people that do it, because that's what you do. You isolate yourself to the groups that make it normal. So it's not weird, right? The
Mhm.
first couple times you do it, you're like hiding in a bathroom with one other person who does it. And before you know it, you're at house parties and bars where you don't have to hide it
Right.
because everyone has normalized it. Now it's just on a kitchen table and you're doing it.
Mhm.
So it's like the frog in boiling water analogy, right? If it's boiling, it jumps in, it's going to jump out. But if it slowly boils, it's going to boil to death. And that's what happens with addiction. And you do have these little moments in hindsight where you're like, I shouldn't be going this way. But for me, what I did is when I started going from doing it like once a month to 4 times a month to once a week to all that kind of stuff. And then I started to call in sick for work because on a
Mhm.
Thursday, I couldn't wait till the weekend. So I wanted to do my coke on the Thursday and get fucked up and then call into work on Friday morning. That's when that started to happen, I realized, like, I'm going down a wrong way, but I was naive enough or
Yeah,
foolish enough to lie to myself and say, I'll figure this out later.
got it.
There's a lot of procrastination in addiction. Like, I'll just figure it out later.
At one point, you become homeless, that you're living in the woods, and you run into, I think it was, like, a friend of yours in the gas station. How did you get there? Maybe 6 months before that, like, what was going on that you ended up at that point where you went from owning an apartment at 19 to being homeless?
At that time, everything started to just start folding on itself. So I had a construction business at that time, the first one I started, and I was okay at it. Like, I was good at the work, but I wasn't very good at collecting the back end stuff. I wasn't very good at it. People weren't paying me and they were late, and I still had to pay my guys. And I just was frantically stressed about more money coming out than what's coming in. And at the same time, I had a wife at the time, and that was failing because I think I was over promising, under delivering. I have this company, and just,
Right, right.
everyone thinks just because you're an entrepreneur or you have this company, you're just going to be rich. Like, it not fucking work that way. As you know, as anyone with a
Correct.
brain who's tried business knows, that it doesn't work that way. I was just failing in that regard. And actually, she started drinking very heavily, like a bottle of wine a day. And I was annoyed at that. Every day I come home, she's fucking drunk and I'm losing my business. And my ego was so big. I didn't ask for help. I didn't know what to do. So I just threw the towel in. I just straight up, like a pussy, I just gave up. I'm just like, fuck this. I'm not dealing with this anymore. And
Mhm.
there was a pile of clean time I had, a year or so of no, I drank, but I didn't do coke. And I remembered, like, what cocaine did for me. It made me feel good. It made me feel successful. And even though I knew it was temporary and it was not real, it was just a feeling. I remember what it did. So I went out and got some cocaine, and I started doing it to escape. And that for about 6 months, I was ignoring my bills. I was ignoring my phone calls. I wasn't showing up at family events. I started getting into cocaine like pretty well every single day. And yeah, it was, before you know it, you start getting letters from the bank and the bailiffs saying, "Hey man, we're going to take your truck away because you're super behind, or we're going to take your condo away because you're super behind. And I just blinked and that was it. Bailiffs on my door, like, this isn't your house anymore. And my truck got towed and my wife at the time left. So
Yeah.
I just said, fuck it.
Like focus from a financial standpoint. Did you feel like that pressure kept like boiling up and like a snowball effect, bigger and bigger, and you were just like deep in that hole?
The bigger the snowball, the more cocaine I need. That's right. Yeah, it's right, man. Like if you're behind on a 18 or a $800 payment and you don't pay it, and then
Right.
the next one you owe is 1,600 and then you don't pay it, it gets bigger and it's more daunting. And that's when fight or flight happens. And for me, it was flight.
What is it that clicked in you? It just changed the trajectory of your life. Mm.
I happened to have 3 days of no substance abuse because I had no money. Like I had change and I would do little jobs or whatever to get money for coke. And I was on day 3 of no drugs. So you start getting your brain back a little bit. And I always knew that I'm a good person. Like I care about people. I'm extremely empathetic. I know I'm not this bad drug addict that
Right.
the media portrays drug addicts as, like wild,
Mhm.
stealing people, which the majority, 99% of them are. But there's some that they're just stuck, right? They're good people that just got stuck. And even those good people, when you're homeless long enough, you turn into that. You just turn into a zombie. You turn into somebody you weren't born that way. You know what I mean? Like the devil has hijacked your body and soul. So on day 3, I started to feel normal again. And I happened to run into him and I just told him the truth about everything that was going on
Yeah,
in my life. And because he asked me, dude, what the fuck
that's
happened to you?
nuts.
Like you lost like 50, 60 pounds. Are you okay? And I ultimately ended up just telling him the truth. And for him, he's a Christian guy and he felt the need. Yeah, he felt that God sent him to help me. And I believe that as
Right.
well. And he said, well, all right, get in my car. Let's do this. And he happened to need a carpenter, which I am. And I'm doing a couple renovations and I need a carpenter. We can work out a deal.
You were pretty much, look, like, I want to get paid, but don't give me the money. Hold it for me because if not, I'm just going to blow it. And when I was listening, I felt like that was a fundamental
Yeah.
change that you did. That was like a
Yep.
big move, bro. Like, really feel like that helped out significantly because just relieves the, what you call the pool to say, oh shit, I have this money now. Let me go blow it. So, like, how long did you have him hold your money pretty much?
We would go a couple of months of work and he would hold the
Right.
money or the things I need, he would just get with that money. Essentially be holding the money for a couple of months. But then pretty much every time we
Mm.
tried, like he's like, okay, you can have some of your money. I foolishly thought I could still drink. So we would go out to the bar quite often, get drunk. And at first it was okay. Like I didn't really, it's not that I didn't want Coke. I definitely wanted it, especially when you're drinking, but I didn't want to let him down. So I decided not to a couple times. After 2 or 3 times of him giving me cash, I found the drug dealer, and that kind of turned into a game where, like, how can I sneak and meet the drug dealer without him knowing while he's still in the drinking establishment, and I can still do coke and get fucked up without him knowing, and like that kind of turned into a game as well. So it was like that for a whole year, like just back and forth, relapse. Okay, I got to quit drinking. Fuck it, I can probably moderate, and okay, I'll moderate, and then I do coke, and then if heaven forbid if they left and I wasn't at home alone, I would just get cocaine pretty much every time.
Got it.
Before I met my current wife, it was like I need to figure this out. This is bad, and again, I was with people where going to the bar and stuff was normal.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like I'm still in my mid-20s, like mid to late
Right.
20s. It's normal to go to the bar and get smashed up. But I knew I can't, I'm just not stopping. You know what I mean? I'm not stopping cocaine. So I have to get my shit together. And yeah, I
No.
did that.
And
And for me, I went, did a couple AA program meetings. I didn't like them. I thought
mhm.
I tried multiple locations and it wasn't for me, it's hard to explain, but it was more so I felt like there was just a lot of like victim mentality in there. Not saying I'm tougher than
Mhm.
anybody else, but I just find a lot of flaws in the program.
Right,
Again, I'm not going to talk too much
right.
shit about them because they've been around since the 30s and helped like
Mhm.
million people. So whatever it's over, that's what all I care about. For me personally, I needed something else. And what I did is I ended up just, if I felt like relapsing, I would ask myself, what is different here? What's going on? And I would realize that there was a theme, and then I would create an answer to that. And I unknowingly created my program that I have now as a sobriety coach. That everything that's in that program is what helped me get sober. So I designed the program based on what works for me. And I wanted to make sure it worked for other people and just be like, hey, if AA doesn't work for you or CA or NA or whatever, Al-Anon doesn't work for you, then try this. Right. And I
That's
started to
insane, man.
like, it
Congrats, dude.
works. I have a 98% success rate. It's, and I want people to know about
Mhm.
it. I started coaching people for free and wanted to just to make sure it
That's
worked,
amazing.
and they all got sober. Yeah, I do pretty much
Right.
everything through Instagram. I do have a website, but the links on my Instagram. So it's Mr. Zorzetto, and then the link in there is the Possible Principal Academy, which is my business. And then yeah, you can book a call, compatibility call, and you can buy right there if you want as well. And we can go from there. I'm about to start to work on an ebook type app, like an app that's lower ticket that most people can afford.
In terms of bringing in new individuals to your program, how have you been able to find new people? Has it been through social media or references from family and friends?
It's two things. So I do Instagram ads that have been like super successful. So I'll make a video. I'll hit all the points that are common because addiction has extremely common themes. I'll hit all those points and let them know like this program can help you fix these things. The issue of addiction
That's
is
crazy.
so large. I get like 40 DMs a day. So it's obviously, it's the addiction is out there. And then of course, clients that have been through the program that recommend me to people as well. That's also another way that I get business, which is my
Right. No,
favorite.
another topic, because I know you're big on jujitsu. So just selfishly, again, I want to see like how did you initially get into jujitsu and why?
So the first time I went on a podcast actually was my buddy Kenny. He has the Second Floor podcast. And that's the way I told everybody about my addiction. So I didn't talk to my family about it. They knew something was going on. Obviously I was disappearing. I lost 60 or 50 or 60 pounds. I can't remember. I was acting different. I lost my truck. I fucking lost everything. Obviously something was going on, but I didn't really talk about it. And so the way I wanted to talk about it was get some sober time first. So I got a couple years under my belt and then talked to Kenny on the podcast and explained everything. And I just thought I was going to go on this podcast one time, be some sort of cautionary tale. And as well as, let everyone know that it's possible to recover, even if you've been at the bottom of the bottom of rock bottom, right? That I was in the sub basement of rock bottom, in my opinion, and out of it. So I wanted to share that with people. And anyways, at the end of it, we were talking about fighting and stuff because he has cauliflower ear. And I told him I box and he's in jujitsu. And you should come try a class. I'm like, yeah, I'll come try it, whatever. And something pulled
Mhm.
towards me, towards it. And I wasn't really big in trying new things or just, I just was like, whatever. I don't know. I was busy. And then for whatever reason, I'm like, oh, fuck it. I'll give it a go. And I went in there and a 140-pound girl and like a 155-pound guy beat the fucking shit out of me.
That's how I
90%
felt
of
my
fights
first
do.
4 or
I'm in
5
big
months,
trouble.
but in hindsight, it's
Yeah.
definitely something that takes a lot of, like, discipline and just consistency to be like, "Alright, fuck it, I just need to keep coming back, keep training, and little by little, feel like I've gotten marginally better."
Yeah, man. It's like that 1% better each day. Like that's what you have to focus on. It's sometimes it's a good day and sometimes it's a bad day, but if you just keep
Right,
showing
it's
up,
like,
you'll just like the stocks,
got you.
it may go like
And
this.
and then in terms of competing,
A
when
good
did you
stock.
start competing, like, in your journey? When you were like, "Alright, I'm gonna actually try to see if I could win a tournament."
I went right away because it terrified me. And I got this thing that if something scares you, you should do it. And if you have some sort of fear, you should face it. And that goes with like confrontation or past relationships or like anything about you. Like you can't run. Addiction is all because we're running. And I don't want to do that anymore. So I was afraid of competing because I'm like, I'm not that good. Uh, I haven't competed in front of people in a long time. Let's do this. So I signed up right away. And my
That's
first tournament was fucking Worlds in Las Vegas. Yeah, there was like 8,000 competitors at that time in one room. I'm like, this is insane. But I loved it, man. I really did. I didn't win a
insane.
single match at white belt. Not a fucking single match at white belt. You get a point. I was terrible, but I just kept going. The
What
blue
you just
belt,
said
I
is
started
so
winning.
true about chasing the things you fear. So
Yeah.
I, for one, I've been training for a year and 2 months and I still haven't competed. And I know it's because of that. Like I'm just like scared of it. But I remember before I did jujitsu, I was like terrified to do it. And that's why I did it. Cause I was like, fuck it. Like I
Yeah.
just need to do it. And eventually, as the months went on, it felt normal. And now I feel like I'm in that place where it's almost when I do train, I'm not like as scared as I once was. So now I need to do that next thing. And I know for sure for myself, I need to just go and compete because that's the thing that's gonna push me, make me nervous and better. So
If you realize that all you have to do is
right,
prove to yourself that you can do it, that's like a little cheat code, right? Like you face the fear, you go through with it, and then you realize like, fuck, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. And in fact, it was awesome. Like when you're competing in jujitsu and you're in the bullpen and you're fucking nervous and
right,
you're pissing your pants a little bit and like you're sizing people up
right,
and holy shit, you get out there and you compete and it's done.
right.
You, oh, that wasn't so bad. That, that was actually fun, actually. And then it's what else in life is like that? And then when you start winning, then you can really say what else in life is like that. Like maybe I should start investing money. Like I know it's scary, but maybe I should
Right,
start playing stocks. Cause if you win, if you
right.
don't play the game, you're not going to win. You don't learn anything about yourself.
Is there, I guess, a process you have in terms of training, like a
Yeah.
method in sense of like working on specific positions a certain day? I'm just always curious because some people they like to do just live rolling, others do like specific moves on it. I'm just curious, what do you think is the best way for you to learn?
Yeah. So for me, what works for me is so I'll drill 3 times a week with a specific move, like whether it's like Kimura from guard, Kimura sweep, like I'll do a sweep or a submission or a takedown. Like I'll pick one and then I'll just hammer that. And the way my gym works at jiu-jitsu is they have move of the week. So you have one move
Mhm.
coupled with a couple other following moves that are set up by
Yeah,
the first for a whole week. So you get it like really dialed into your head. So whatever that professor picks at that time, I typically drill that. And then on Wednesday, Friday, Saturday mornings, I do positional sparring. So we'll start from close guard, start from half guard,
mm,
start from mount, start from side control, start from X guard, start from Delahiva, and just get right into a roll from there. So that works for me. And then, so that's Monday, yeah, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. And then the other days I just do regular class and then I'll lift weights as well. If I have a tournament coming up, that's about 3 or 4 weeks away. I start doing the assault bike super aggressively so that my cardio goes up. Cause that's the terrifying part of competing is being out of
right.
gas, being out of cardio, you're tapped and your opponent's not tired.
Yeah, that is a tough
Exhaustion
one.
will make cowards of us all.
So in
Yeah,
terms
it's just
of
back.
your
Yeah.
program, do you intertwine fitness? Because I feel like it is like a fundamental part of your life of working out, lifting weights, doing jujitsu. Do you feel like this kind of affects everything else financially, also like sobriety and et cetera?
So yeah, as far as sobriety, like fitness and nutrition are hand in hand. There's a couple reasons. So first of all, when you're addicted to drugs and alcohol, you're not eating correctly. Like your teeth are all soft, especially if you're doing cocaine or crack or meth, like your enamel and your teeth get all fucked up. So
That's
you can
nuts,
only eat,
man.
like I only ate ice cream because
That's
that's all my
nuts.
teeth could handle. It was like soft.
That's
Yeah, and
crazy.
I needed some for calorie too. It's not worth the diet. Don't become an addict just so you can eat ice cream all day. But it certainly goes hand in hand. So a couple things of course, as I said, in addiction, you don't eat well, you don't make the right decisions. Your whole life is just a mess, right? Like you're only fixated on one thing, everything else goes out the window. When you first become sober, it's important to understand that the big three, I call it, the dopamine, endorphins, and serotonin, they're all out of whack. So we have a higher
Right.
baseline. Like we need way more just to feel normal, whereas most people are down here. So in my program, you do something called anchoring. So every single day when you wake up, have a glass of water, and you do 3 sets of push-ups to failure, which sounds like
Makes
bro science or whatever. Like, how is push-ups correlated with it? But what you're doing, first of all, you're going to failure because you can actually see how far you can push yourself. And it's a little bit of a game, right? I did Today I did 50. Tomorrow I'm going to do 52. The next day I'm going to do 56, whatever, right? So you have a little bit of a game there. The other thing you're doing is you're getting endorphins
Mhm.
because you completed a task first thing in the morning before anything else, before any sort of supplier or your work or anyone can bother you. There's no excuse to not do push-ups. All you need is you've completed that task. Number two, your endorphins go up because it feels good to exercise, right? And you've also kept a promise, right? If you have to promise me that you're going to anchor every single day for 90 days, which is the duration of the program, you've now promised me and you promised yourself that you have to do these things. So you've kept the promise, you've earned dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins, and you started your day off with proving
Mhm.
yourself or showing yourself what you're made of by going to failure. So it helps
Right.
regulate the day. Like, you start your day off with a win. What's better than that? On top of that, there's a nutrition element as well, because there's certain foods that can help
Mhm.
regulate even just focus, right? Like people who have ADHD or people who, which is super common in addiction as well, by the way. But you feel good throughout the day because you're eating the proper things. Plus you're working out. So your dopamine, endorphins, and serotonin level, they're more regulated. Um, it goes hand in hand. So next, after you finish the 90 days, you continue to work out, you continue to eat, you continue to anchor. So you've built all this momentum while you're becoming sober. You have 90 days of sobriety, plus you're building this momentum. Now, after 90 days, on 91 days, you
Right.
continue your momentum of your fitness and nutrition goals. And that's like a great level of identity, for example, and purpose, right? Identity, because
Right.
who doesn't want to be the guy who's super fit and disciplined?
Right.
Everyone loves that
Yeah.
guy. Who doesn't like Dwayne Johnson? Everyone fucking loves that guy, man. Because even whether you agree, even with his politics or not, which his politics are obviously super touchy, he's one of those guys that just gets a get out of jail free card because he's so incredibly
Yeah,
disciplined
it's
that
true. If
men
everyone
look up
could
to him.
be jacked
Everyone looks
without
up to him,
zero
you know?
effort, everyone would obviously be jacked. It's just the discipline that it takes to work out every day, eat healthy, like building that
Exactly.
routine. Anthony, man, thank you so much for your time today. It really
Exactly.
means a lot to me. And for the audience that's watching, if you guys want to reach out to Anthony, I'll plug in his website so you could check out his content, his program. Anthony, man, thank you again for your time, man.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Appreciate it.